Hey there, Bubby! Welcome to Shanghai. My name is Duke, and this is another grading video. So if you've seen any of these I've done in the past, it's basically just me doing my job. I work for a company that buys and sells comic books online. I am the grader for the company. Although I do hasten to add that this is not really a commercial for the company. Shanghai is my own personal channel. This is something I do on my own time. Just kind of a fun 15 or 20 minutes way to warm up for the workday. And I thought it's a way to share that fun and excitement of comic books that I've had, a lifelong passion of mine, and maybe trade a few tricks and tips on the grading process. But again, just by way of full disclosure, letting you know who I am and what I do, although again, this is not really meant to be a commercial video. The company I work for is called VCB LLC. VCB stands for Vintage Comic Books. And we buy and sell comic books across the country, all over the world, through a website, sellmycomicbooks.com. And you may have seen other videos on YouTube on the Sell My Comic Book channel of us processing, unboxing and processing those collections as they come in. And some of them go to CGC to be graded and slabbed. And some of those will end up on either of our websites for sale, or they are auctioned off at a site called Comic Link. Some of the other books will end up in the store. And again, that's .com Comics, located in Freeport, Maine. Or they may be sold on the website, either of the two websites, at sellmycomicbooks.com or .comcomics.com. But the bulk of the books end up on eBay, either as multi-book lots or as singles. And so the ones that are sorted to be sold as singles, that's where I come into the process. They end up here on my desk, and I sort of, I actually do. I'm so bad at YouTubing. I apologize. Not that I'm going to apologize. To hell with it. I'm having fun. And that's what this is all about. And I'm going to keep doing these kind of videos as long as it's fun for me, or until YouTube kind of collectively says, please stop. But anyway, so I grade the books. And so if you ever buy a book on eBay from us, and again, the username on eBay, the seller name is .com Comics. If you have a problem with the grade, if it says it's a 6.0 and you're like, oh, that's only a 5.0, 9 times out of 10, I'm the one that you have a problem with. So anyway, I thought I would, again, just spend a little bit of time, like I said, 15 or 20 minutes at the start of my day as kind of a warm-up, going over grading and maybe talking about comic books a little bit. So anyway, please do like, share, subscribe, do all the groovy things. If you do enjoy this video, if you don't enjoy the video, please say so in the comments below, because even your negative comments can help out with the YouTube algorithm. So I guess I don't mind. I'll take it. So anyway, when I get down to grading, what I do, I am old enough that I predate the 10-point grading system. And so much like my high school French, in that when somebody talks to me in French, I have to first translate that in my brain into English, think of something in English to say, translate that into French, and then actually say it. So conversations with me in French or Spanish or Klingon or ubbi-dubbi, or let's face it, even in English, can be a little slow and laborious. With grading, I have to do kind of the same thing. I don't think in the 10-point scale because I predate that. I'm an old dog. The 10-point scale is a new trick, even though it's been around for quite a while. So I look at a book, and I pick up a book like this Adventure Comics 213 from, I think this is from 1959? 1955. And you may see from time to time, I'll apologize for that, the headphones, microphone wire kind of drifting into the camera, and that's because when I grade, I take my glasses off, do it kind of naked eye, so I have to kind of get right up an inch or two away from the book. So you'll probably see the wire from time to time. You'll probably see the back of my head from time to time, and I apologize for that. This is not a professionally produced video. Again, this is just me having some fun. But when I pick up a book, I tend to just sort of do an instant assessment, good, fine, near mint. Because when I started, that's really all there was. Very good and very fine kind of came along later. So I'll do an initial sort of quick assessment, and to me, I say, okay, well, that's a fine. And then I'll say, okay, well, is it fine, very good, very fine? And I think I'm leaning a little more towards very good. And then it's at that point that I will sort of make the conversion. I'm like, okay, well, very good is 4.0. And then I start looking at individual defects like this crease, these creases here, assuming you can see them if I'm lining that up correctly. And then I start sort of refining. Now, I mention that because as we go on, it's, I think, going to be a little tedious for me to do that sort of assessment every single time. So you'll hear me just kind of, and see me just kind of pick up a book and start listing off defects. So just know I've done that sort of general assessment, those first couple of steps in my head of just doing an overall impression, narrowing it down a little bit, then kind of converting into the number scale and start refining that. So like right now I'm at like, okay, well, that's a 4.0, very good, and start looking at the defects and decide if it is a 4, if I want it to be a 4.5, if maybe it's a 3.5. And it's at this point I'm going to take my glasses off, and you may start to see the back of my head, and you may get a real close-up on these books here. So what we've got, the big defect here is this kind of fold right across the top. We also have, you may be able to see, a 1/2 inch spine split at the top. Bottom looks good, but we've got some wrinkling here along the bottom, some creases where it looks like whoever initially read this, whatever kid did in 1955, probably folded the cover back. And I hope I'm not too close. I don't know how well the camera is going to pick things up. So again, any complaints about the actual overall style of this, be sure to leave them in the comments below. We've got some chipping here along the bottom, some tears. That looks like maybe a bindery defect off the printing press more than any kind of physical handling damage. We've got what looks to be, I don't think that's, yeah, it is. There's a little bit of a, I don't know if you can see it, a little bit of a 1/4 inch hole in the spine right there. So I was leaning towards calling this a 4.5, and now that 1/4 inch hole right there probably has me right back at a 4. Then what I usually do is I'll flip through the book lightly, making sure everything is complete, looking at the page quality, and really, these pages are nice. These are really kind of nice white pages for a 1955 book. And I always stop at the centerfold and make sure everything is tight and complete. So this issue has a Green Arrow story right there by probably Lee Elias. And there is a Aquaman story, and that looks like it's by Ramona Fraden, I think is how her name is pronounced. So many comic book creators, I've said their names in my head for decades, but never heard anybody else actually say them out loud. And then we've got probably here, this is George Papp on a Superboy story. And we always look at the inside front cover to see how those staples look. So yeah, I think I'm going to really go, a kind of, a general assessment is that's a pretty nice looking book. Yeah, it's closer to a 4.0 than a 6.0, closer to very good than fine. But I was inclined to go 4.5, not quite a 5 because of this long thing here and the spine split. But I was inclined to go 4.5 except for that small little 1/4 inch hole in the spine. So I think I am going to end up calling that a 4. So, and I keep a little notebook here beside me, and what I do when I grade them, I write down the grade, any defects that are not, would not be immediately visible, such as that spine hole, 1/4 inch hole mid spine. And here's the reason we do that. Again, on the .com Comics eBay seller account, we don't do photographs, we do scans of the front and back cover of every single. But even so, not everything shows up on a scan. So anything that would not be immediately evident in the scan, we list that in the description, below the listing. So that's what I'm doing there. And what happens is I end up passing these books off to one of the two listers who will actually create the posting for eBay. So everything you see me grading here, probably within a week and a half of whenever this video goes up, those books will be up on eBay. And actually, it's at this point that I'm going to start a little stopwatch here. First, I'm going to check. You might have heard the ding, and that's the wife telling me to order pizza for dinner because the Thai place is closed. Which is probably information you don't need to know. Like I said, I'm a terrible YouTuber. But because I said I only want these videos to go about maybe 15 or 20 minutes, I am at this point going to, now that I've got through kind of the whole preamble, I'm going to start a stopwatch here. And when I get to about the 15-20 minute mark, I'll stop. And that'll be the video for today. All right, so looking at this next book, and this is Adventure Comics 279. And I gotta kind of see, my head is below where the camera is. I'm recording this off an iPad, and it's on kind of a little post thing, which is actually up over my head. So I can't really, I gotta be careful where I make sure you can actually see these things, because I can't always see what you're looking at while I'm looking at the book. And so you can see here we've got some pretty heavy stress lines all along the spine. And there's some blunting, and we also have some stress here along the top. That damn microphone cord is in my way. We've got some stressing, some folds there. So this is, we're looking here at probably a 4-0. It's not as nice a looking 4-0 as the last 4-0. We've got some more chips here, and again, those look like bindery printing press chips that have since got out of control rather than handling issues. Problem is, as I do this, you'll hear me kind of fade in and out as I concentrate. I don't know that I'm quite talented enough to talk and work at the same time. Even though, like I said, I'm not actually working. This is sort of a little 20-minute warm-up before I start my actual work day. So there's some more Aquaman. Now with Aqualad. And oh, well, this is interesting. It's not Green Arrow in the middle. That is Congarilla and Janu the Jungle Boy. But the centerfold looks nice and tight, so that's good. And some George Papish. No, that's not Pap. Who is that? That's Swan. That is Swan. That's some early Swan. Very exciting. Very exciting. So these pages are actually a little browner than, or not brown, but tanner than the one we just looked at. But the inside cover looks good. So I think we're going to go with a 4. What's the date on this, just out of curiosity? It's 1960. So I think we're going to call that a 4. And if you disagree with me, by all means, leave a comment, or you can reach out to me. If you don't want to do it publicly, you can reach out to me on the social media. I am at Durago Duke on all the socials. Now, this is an important book. This is the first. Well, it's important if you're a Legion fan, which I am, as you might guess by the name of this channel. Shanghala is, by the way, if you don't know, is the asteroid cemetery that is the final resting place of all the greatest superheroes of the 30th or 31st century now, setting where the Legion stories take place. Although this one takes place in the 20th century. You can see the time bubble. They've come back in time. And this issue, Adventure 293, is the first appearance of the Legion of Super Pets. Now, interestingly, this is also the first appearance of Comet, the Super Horse, who didn't actually have a name yet, and Beppo the Super Monkey. He didn't have a name yet either, so he got his name later, and this is probably only his, I don't know, second or third appearance. Streaky, the Super Cat, and Crypto the Super Horse were, of course, around quite a while. And this is funny. Look at the inside cover. The entire inside cover dedicated to apologizing or rationalizing the increase in the cover price from 10 to 12 cents, although you will see here, this book was probably in a bookstore or a resale shop at some point early in its life where somebody slapped a 15-cent sticker on it. So what would I do with that? In a lot of cases, I might do a qualified grade if this was higher, like above a 6.0, like a 6.5, fine, very fine, or better. Especially if it's above a 7.0, fine, very fine. I might do a qualified grade if that's like the only major defect. But where this is a lower grade, going to be a lower grade, I will probably just sort of incorporate that price sticker into the grade. I hope I wasn't holding it above the camera there where you wouldn't be able to see it. So what have we got here? We've got a lot of chipping here along the bottom. We've got some stress lines here, some in the cover itself. Got a little dent right there. Not a lot of tears, but just some kind of stressing. That damn sticker, of course. We've got a long kind of crease here. Don't know how well you can see it on the camera. More stress there. Some dents there. And I just hit the camera holder, so you're probably thinking I'm having an earthquake, but we don't get many earthquakes here in Western Maine. Some Bizarro by John Fort. Pages look nice. Hey, you guys! Did you hear that? That's my phone. Somebody just called me. My ringtone is the electric company theme. So, who is this? I have no idea who that is. Who's calling me? And the light just went out. So, I think I am probably inclined to call this. I don't know if I want to go quite as low as a 4. Although there's quite a bit of stressing here on the cover. And actually, I think with the accumulation of defects, even though they are all quite kind of minor, and with that sticker, I think this is going to end up being another 4.0. I could probably get away with calling it a 4.5. I don't think I can get up to a 5. Primarily because of this stuff going on down here. So that's going to be another 4.0. So if you want the first appearance of the Legion of Super Pets, even though I keep claiming this isn't a commercial, you can find it on eBay in about a week or so as a 4.0. All right, Spider-Man, the kangaroo, whose power was literally super hopping. Hop, 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 hoppy, hop, hop. So he actually dies in this issue. He wasn't around very long for obvious reasons. I mean, how did the kangaroo end up in the Marvel Universe? He probably got rejected from the Legion of Substitute Heroes. So this is a decent looking book. It's got some issues. You can see some folds here, a lighter fold right there. A little bit of stressing, a little bit of color fading here, some junk there, some junk there. So I was initially inclined to call this a 7, and I'm trying to decide now if there's enough going on that it needs to be a 6.5. The back is still nice white. Marvels, especially from the 60s, those back white covers are often browned up something awful. And it's really hard to get them above a 5. These pages are nice and white. Looking for that centerfold. Next one. That almost looks like Stan. That almost looks like Roy. Where the hell are we? The advertising firm of Carter and Lombardo. Well, you can say that's Carter and Lombardo, but that looks to me a lot like Roy Thomas and Stan Lee. What do you think? I should probably start that rumor, and that would help increase the value of this book. Cameo appearance by Stan Lee and Roy Thomas. Like I said, this is just fun for me. I don't really care if you watch or not. So yeah, I think I'm going to go... There's some stressing here, some non-color breaking stressing. And you've got that, and that, and that, and that. Oh, it's a hard call. But I think I'm still going to go with a 7. I'm going to call that a 7 rather than a 6.5. So that's a 7. Oh, and I want to write note price sticker, although it should be obvious on that previous book, that Adventure 293. All right, well, you can tell this is a 70s book. You know, the other Sean, whom I refer to as Little Sean in those Sell My Comic Book unboxing videos, this feels thin. He's a skateboarder, and I ought to see if he's got one of these books. Obviously, this is kind of 70s when skateboarding was first becoming a fad. I think both Marvel and DC had skateboarding characters, and I think they were both called Rocket Racer, if my memory serves. So this is looking very 7.5-ish. The paper's a little more tan than that previous issue we looked at. Some Molten Man, making sure everything's complete, nothing's cut out. I want to flip through lightly, not to create any additional stressing. Now, not with this particular book, but with a lot of books, which you'll see me do in these videos, you might ask, well, why don't you use gloves? You know, the oil on your fingers is going to cause some issues, even if you just wash them. I actually find that I'm more likely to damage the book handling it with gloves than I am with just my bare hands. So that's why. That's why that is. And everything looks nice and tight. There's nothing really particularly wrong with the book, although it's kind of printed off center. It wasn't cut quite right, but that's not really a grading defect for the most part. For the most part, printing defects are not considered grading defects. Some exceptions. I think I'm inclined to call that an 8. Do I want to call it an 8 or a 7.5 is the only question. And I think I'm going to go with that being an 8. So, if you want to dispute that, you can certainly do so. And now we're going to look at Spider-Man 200. This is a book I bought right off the stands when I was a wee child. In 1980 this came out. So actually I was not quite a wee child. I was almost into my teens. And we actually have 2 of them here. And this one looks to be in a better condition. So, let's see. Trying to figure out where you're looking so we can both be looking at the same thing at the same time. The spine is pretty square, a little crushing here. And that's an issue with square-bound marbles from the 60s right up through the 80s, is getting them in really good condition with the spine can be an issue. So we've got some, let's see where I'm kind of pointing there, some issues. Everything else, though, well, that corner is a little scuffed. Everything else looks nice and tight, nice and square. Back cover looks okay, a little bit of a stress line there. Inside looks okay. We're not really going to see much of a centerfold here, but everything looks complete. And I think I'm going to call that one probably a 7.5. Can't get up to an 8, I don't think, because we've got just, you know, both corners here and that, and you can't see it in the video, but there's a little bit of glue wrinkling, which, you know, how these square bounds are made. Basically, they printed up a regular book or two, and then wrap the cover around it, and the cover is actually glued on to the stapled interior. And often you get a little bit of glue wrinkling right in this area, which we've got here. It's very, very minor, but it's there. So I'm going to call that a 7.5. Now this one, you can see that this spine is not square. It is rolled a little bit and even crushed right in here. And we've got some stress lines here where the cover was probably folded back while it was being read. This one you can see isn't printed quite right either. It's printed too high. You can see below the bottom of the cover there, where the cover image was supposed to be. Again, that in and of itself is not necessarily a defect, just pointing that out. And here you can see, and this happens a lot, the staples. So as I said, the interior of the book is stapled together, then that cover is glued around the outside, and a lot of times you can see the staples protruding. And here they're not quite yet, but you can see where they really kind of want to. And oh, look at that. Got a little bit of a spine split, like maybe 1/8 of an inch there at the top. So I think I'm going to call this a 7. You've got, you know, basically that stress and that split. Staple showing. But otherwise it's square and tight. And you might, at first, if you saw it on the stand, you might, you know, think of it as a new book. And that's really, you know, very fines, even into the fine, you want them to look like kind of a new book, like maybe they've been read once or twice with, you know, a moderate degree of care, and but not to look like, you know, obviously defective. So what did I say? That's a 7.0. All right, what am I at for time? 16.5. So we'll probably get time enough for another book or two. This is a book that came along after I stopped collecting Spider-Man as a kid. He's black suited, and that's not why I stopped. I just, not long after Shooter went away, the whole line just seemed to fall into disrepair, in my opinion, although I didn't know that's why it was at the time. This issue is the first appearance of the Silver Sable. Everything looks nice and tight. You know, a little blunting there, a little blunting here, but otherwise nice and tight. A little bit of an indent here where you can see the cover overlaps the pages a little bit, and it's got pressed right there. But there are really no stress lines along that spine to speak of. Certainly nothing that breaks color. The pages are nice. Doesn't look like anything's missing. Centerfold's going to look tight when we get to it. Yep, nice and tight. There's your Silver Sable. That pose looks very Ditko-esque to me. Obviously it's not, but not him. But Ron Frenz. Ron Frenz is still working. This book is from 1985, and I always liked Ron Frenz. And I like him more now even than I did then, you know, comparatively to other artists working presently. I'd rather read a Ron Frenz book than just about anything out there. So Ron, if you're watching, appreciate you, buddy. I'm going to call that an 8. I'm going to call it an 8.5, frankly. The only really obvious defect is here where you've got, this was pressed in a little bit. So, you know, I could actually, well, and this blunting here on the bottom. I could, color flake there. A little bit of a bend there. It's great, except for this, and this. I don't think I can quite get away with a 9. You know, because you would see that on the stand, and you would know it's not a brand new book just by instantly looking at it. You would know it's been read, you know, at least once. So I'm going to call that an 8.5. And I think I'm going to stop things there for this video. And we will pick up next time with some Batman. So anyway, again, please like, share, and subscribe if you've enjoyed this. If you have any comments, about the quality of the video or the grading or the commentary or what have you, please leave that in the comments below or reach out to me as Durigo Duke on all the socials. And we will see you next time. Until then, good night, good luck, and please be good to each other.